So, presumably been thinking very hard since our...
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Well, I mean, there's not much I can do. If it's another sort of 70 grand, which is impossible to come up this quickly. And if I do go back and take a year off, as the Progress Committee recommended, I called up my loan people, and they said no. Because as soon as you take another year off, the loans are due. So I need to think about that.
I mean, from our point of view, from the Progress Committee, it's an academic issue, not a financial one. I'm sure you've spoken to Neville about the options. I mean, the faculty can consider, the Dean can consider some fee remission. I think in the current climate I wouldn't guarantee anything, but you can certainly make an application to the Dean, talking about these kind of things. I'm very happy to talk to him as well. Now, what deal he will offer, I don't know. It's always been a difficult thing with international fee-paying students, because if we give you a fee remission of half, for instance, the university still keeps its half, because they tax everything by half, and so we get nothing. So it's been a bit of a problem. But look, in the end, the UPC decision is an academic one, and I would stand by it. The issue here really is if there is an insurmountable problem to finance the remaining course, because presumably you had enough to get you through the next 18 months. So, well, the original cost was $170,000, and then they moved it up to $209,000, but I mean, it is basically the repeat of the year is an extra $100 grand, and living expenses and so on. But the cost of the course isn't that much.
No. The cost of the course is going to be approximately $70,000. And the living expenses are about 30. So
look, as I say, you can make. It would be to write to the dean. The dean makes these decisions, although he may hand that back down to the head of the School of Medicine, Jim Best. But at the moment, I believe the only person who can make a decision about fee remission is. I would put in that letter, and you can copy it to me if you like as well. The circumstances, the detail of the management of your stutter. It seems actually that it's worked quite well. I've heard this from others that it seems to have been very successful. So when we've got a whole lot of things on our side, we're talking about a year in time now. As I say, I think academically we have no way of allowing you to go forward into semester 10. But if you could find, if we can find some other solution, we're not being cruel here, but we have to say, semester 9 is the point where you have to demonstrate the requisite skills, and you haven't done that. Now, I know you emailed, I think it was Neville or someone, and sort of said you'd like some feedback from the second set of stations. As you know, I was one of your examiners, so I can give you some very direct feedback about that. I'm happy to go through this. I don't want this to be, oh no, I did do this, if it's at that kind of level, because I can't defend the other examiners, I can only defend what I wrote. This is about giving you some feedback generally about the various stations. The issue of the tubes in the venipuncture part of the section, looking at the marking sheet, there was no, because you passed that particular station. I don't think there were big issues about which tubes. It's always an issue for us whenever we run this station. The type of tubes has always been a problem. If it was a mark or two, it's not much. I think your performance. The overall view, and I spoke to all of the examiners after I completed, and certainly was my view, was that your stutter was a contribution to the perception of your performance. In other words, because of that, you had extra time, although in my station you didn't need the extra time. And I think in many of the stations you didn't need the extra time because you actually coped quite well. but there were concerns about your overall level of knowledge, that just even allowing for that, and we had some very experienced examiners, that we just did not feel that your level of knowledge was at the requisite standard. And this was 4 independent people who were not aware of your, 3 of them were not aware of your circumstances at all, because we were examining, as you know, sort of 11 people on that.
Okay.
Now, to be, specific, let's say for the one I examined you on, I'm not sure where you learnt to examine like that, but it's not what we teach. Just for instance, you did flexion and extension sitting down. You had the patient sitting on the bench when you did that. And I don't know, you've got them to lean forward as much as you can, but I don't know who taught you that. I don't think there's any text.
It was at a clinic.
Well, the book does not say that, It doesn't say anything like that. I know because I wrote it.
Right.
And you cannot tell how much lumbar flexion, it's just not the way it's done. It's always done combined with hip flexion or whatever that. So the you kind of failed on factual knowledge of curriculum. Rotation in the end, that's a relevant thing. The way you took out, although you got reasonable marks for this, the way you took out the knee jerks and the ankle jerks and the plantar, your technique looked terrible. It just looked like you hadn't done it very often.
Really?
There are people who look very comfortable with knee jerks, and I've examined this station and many similar to it. It didn't look like you practiced very often.
Really? Okay.
So, there was a kind of a, technical thing. So you didn't get a lot of marks from the original part of that because, firstly, you were not doing the examination that we'd kind of prescribed. Now, we're not saying that that's the only way, but for the purposes of an OSCE, we always say the marking sheet will be based on the other side. Then there was a series of questions, which you got the level wrong of the MRI. You certainly had some. You knew one MRI, CT were different, and why you had to use you couldn't have a pacemaker, but you weren't able to describe the Schober's test
for ankylosing.
It's a test of flexion. So again, it's all in that session, because there's a back examination section.
I know.
Block 4.
I've seen it.
Taught it and written, wrote it, taught it. So it just seemed like that hadn't kind of gone across. Now, for some of the other stations, obviously I wasn't there. The venipuncture one, you passed that. Technically, I think you did reasonably well, and the major issue there wasn't the tubes, and you had David commented here, had difficulty applying tourniquet, unfamiliar with Vacutainer needles, so he had adjusted for that, which is fine. And wondered whether you'd practice with other devices. And you practice with
No. What's it called? The curriculum states when we were practicing the techniques at St. Esa's. It's only with Vacutainer. Yeah. I've never seen anything else on the ward.
Oh no! It's in the equipment. I think was also the part trainer. So you've used one of those.
Yeah,
you've used one of those before. The transient loss of consciousness station. Got sidetracked on family history, social history, so there were lots of questions that were not kind of focused on it. Frequently interrupted patients' flow of conversation.
Well, that's what we're talking. I'm not arguing, but when the patient, we're talking when the patient rambles, and we have a certain period of time.
Yeah, but these are simulated patients. These are not real patients.
Yeah.
What they're telling you, they don't ramble. The simulated patients, they have a script. So you've got to be very careful about cutting off, because they're also trained that if you cut them off, in a sense, unless you go back and directly ask them. So there were some issues there, and it seemed, when people start asking about family history and social history and so on.
But was the diagnosis right at that?
You thought it was syncope. It was no, hold it. What what was the neglectful?
He had a heart condition.